Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see you here, 9 a.m., bright and early. You all have your coffees. I am 3 espressos in, and one of those is a martini. So we'll just go ahead and get started, right? Yeah. So 80 years. That's long enough to shape childhood. That's long enough to shape culture. And that's long enough to know that the impact you create really matters. The real question is, how do you turn that attention of 80 years into meaningful action? And at Mattel, we did just that. We celebrated our 80th anniversary, and instead of asking or looking back at how far we've come, we've asked how far can we go? And for 8 decades, we've been able to harness the power of play to create impact at scale, helping to improve the lives of children across the world in 150 countries. We've supported their health, we've given them access to education, we're strengthening early childhood development, and we are empowering girls. We've partnered with children's hospitals, numerous nonprofits, many of you are in the room and attending this conference, communities around the world to ensure that play isn't just joyful, it's transformative. It's a force for healing, it's a pathway to learning, it's a foundation for confidence. So look at these numbers. We chose to treat our 80th anniversary not as a moment to pause, but as a catalyst to act. Through our 80 Moments for 80 Years campaign, we turned this milestone into action and just wanted to not look back and reflect, because milestones, they really only matter if they're going to move something forward. And today, that responsibility feels bigger than ever. We know that in this room. The world's changing, the challenges are more complex, we're more connected, and they're more deeply urgent, very human. Expectations just aren't higher, they are more severe. So people, especially the next generation, they're looking at all of us in this room, corporations, nonprofits coming together, not just to stand for something, but we all need to work together to create more of that lasting impact. And that's the shift from celebration to actual contribution, from our legacy to our responsibility, and from moments in time to moments that change outcomes. So 80 Moments for 80 years was built on one simple idea. If you have influence, you have a responsibility. And for Mattel, each moment is an action. We're expanding access to play, supporting communities, advancing sustainability, and amplifying diverse voices. It's become a unifying force across our organization, connecting our teams, our retailers, our partners, shared functions around a shared purpose. Because impact at scale doesn't happen all alone in a silo. It happens when people are aligned, when they're activated, when they're working towards something bigger together. And sustaining that takes intention, clear purpose, local ownership, and the discipline to keep showing up long after that moment passes. Because impact, it doesn't happen all at once. It happens in moments. Moments where you choose not to recognize your progress, but to create it. And here's why that matters beyond Mattel. Every organization in this room, you all have a celebration, a milestone. But too often, maybe we think of that as something that just happens in the moment, something that passes, when they can be so much more powerful. We found this out for ourselves with last year's campaign, because milestones end up creating attention. And attention is a choice. It can reinforce who you've been, but even more so, redefining what you stand for. So how did we turn meaningful milestones into great impact? First, we led with intention. We assembled a global task force that met at the beginning of the year and said, what are we going to decide to do with this milestone, not just what it might represent? And then second, we turned our purpose into actual action. We put plans in place across the entire organization, all areas of the company, with one rule. Everything that we do shouldn't just be built on messaging. It should be built on some sort of movement. And then third, thinking beyond that moment. The goal wasn't just momentum for the campaign, it was built to continue to move forward. Because today, philanthropy has really been redefined at Mattel. It's not just what you create, it's what you make possible. And we're so proud of inspiring 80 years of generations through play, but more than that, we're focused on what is going to come next. Because when you've been part of a major organization built on childhood for generations, you don't just inherit that legacy, you inherit a true responsibility. A responsibility to help shape the future. And we really feel that every day. So, before we begin the next part of our great conversation, here's what I would like to leave with you to take throughout the day today. Don't just ask maybe what your next milestone or celebration could mean for your organization. Ask what it can change. Don't just celebrate it, but use it. Because in the end, milestones aren't defined by how long you've been here. They're defined by what you choose to do with that moment right in front of you. So, the moment in front of me now is to get to the second part, my favorite part of this conversation, and I'd like to introduce two very crucial nonprofit partners for Mattel. That's Coco Black with Feed the Children. Come on out, Coco. And also Pina Jabari with Save the Children. So thrilled to share the stage with both of you. What an amazing partnership we've had. So I want to dive right in. And I have tons of things when it comes to this work that keep me up at night. But share a bit about your mission, and then please tell everyone what's keeping you up at night.
Well, Nancy, so many things are keeping me up at night. I think about the last year in the hunger landscape and how much it has changed. And every child, deserves the opportunity to not only survive, but to thrive. Yet tonight, 1 in 4 kids are going to go to bed hungry. And that's unacceptable.
Absolutely.
At Feed the Children, we believe in a world where no child goes to bed hungry. And so really thinking about, yes, no child should be going to bed hungry. And so here at Feed the Children, we're committed to ending childhood hunger. And so what that means is we work in communities with partners like Mattel, who help us go into communities and provide the food, the resources, the opportunities so that every child can survive and thrive.
We're committed to helping you get to your mission. Pina, for you.
Thanks, Nancy. Thank you so much for having us here today. Save the Children is an organization that believes that all children have rights. Let that sink in. Kids have rights. And we're working to ensure that they have the right to health, to education, and protection from harm. We've been doing that work for over 100 years, and we're present in over 100 countries across the globe. Actually, we do a lot of our work right here in rural America. We got our start back in the 1930s in rural Appalachia, really wanting to focus on kids' education outcomes, and we quickly learned that we had to focus on food security at the same time. But what's keeping me up at night is a scary statistic. 69% of kids in America today are not meeting that 3rd grade reading milestone. That's a really important moment in life where you're changing from learning how to read into using that skill of reading to learn other subjects. And so it's an important milestone, but it's also a bellwether indicator of lifelong success. It predicts whether or not that child is going to graduate high school or be economically successful in their lifetime. And so that's definitely what's keeping me up at night as we're having conversations about economic opportunities and growth and development. I'm thinking about that next generation. So Save the Children's really committed to that next generation and helping them achieve their full potential. And this summer we'll be launching a campaign to help kids everywhere learn without limits.
We'll be there for that too. Well, between the two of these organizations, we have been partnering, I would say it's close to 50 years between the two of you, and we're so supportive of your mission. Everything we do is to uplift the work that you do. So maybe tell us a little bit about partnering with Mattel. How has maybe even last year with the 80 Moments campaign and throughout history, tell us a little bit about how you have felt that corporate support.
Well, we have felt so much corporate support from Mattel over the years. We've been partners for over 25 years, which is absolutely incredible. And I think about how our partnership has evolved over the years. We went from distributing toys to kids. Of course, we know hunger is such a serious topic, and it's pretty heavy, right? But we're always working with children, and so we've got to bring a little bit of fun and levity to the conversation and to the table. And Mattel does just that. And so our partnership has evolved from toys and distributions at times throughout the year to really being intentional and thinking about our mission alignment and our work together, and really thinking about, okay, what does this look like as tentpole moments throughout the year? And that's one of the things I loved most about 80 Moments for 80 years was really, we were intentional in setting our moments, whether that was responding in times of crisis with the devastating California wildfires, whether that was showing up in pajamas. We had a pajama-powered resource rally for 400 families, and kids got to come out and not only receive food, they got essentials, and then of course got to take home some iconic toys from Mattel, while those employees were in their PJs so that we could together put child hunger to bed. In connection to our cause marketing campaign, Put Child Hunger to Bed. And then, of course, your pop-up stores did at-register donations from shoppers. We had so many other moments, and I just think about, Mattel and how much commitment to giving back your employees have. It is embedded in your culture, and in every moment they bring joy. And I think that has just been such a breath of fresh air in a year that was very heavy.
Yeah, it was a heavy year, and that's a really great example of lots of different areas that a corporation can play into with a partner. It's just not one specific thing. And the employee engagement opportunities that you bring are very fun. Yes, who doesn't want to show up to
Nancy,
volunteer in your PJs? Yeah.
I mean, if I can build on what you just
please.
shared, Coco, because I do think it all starts with that strategic alignment. And I think, similar to Feed the Children, Save the Children's been partnering with Mattel for over 20 years now. And we understand that play is such an important part of childhood, and so finding that strategic alignment and understanding that, but also having the grace to know that we each bring unique superpowers to the table, right? And so how can we each leverage those superpowers? And in trust, I think, is the other big piece. Trust that each person, each party can actually do the great work that we're doing, whether it's impact work or perhaps it's more on the marketing or employee engagement front. And the other thing I would just add is curiosity and the opportunity to learn and grow together, provide that feedback to one another, ask the open-ended questions about what's happening in the world, why are we doing it this way, listen to learn and learn together and grow when things don't always go right, and taking that as an opportunity to look forward. And so I just really appreciate those fundamentals of the strategic alignment, the trust, and the curiosity.
Yeah, we do too. It's a good partnership. I want to hear a little bit, I spoke a little bit about our milestone from last year, but I know you all have had some pretty amazing moments where you've celebrated your milestone, but like even beyond, right, the celebration about what we're talking about here, like moving a moment forward. Go ahead, anyone who wants to take that one first. Tina?
Well, actually, it was last year we were sitting in this room,
Yes.
and I came up to you and the team, and I said, 80 moments, like, whoa, how are you tracking? Are you gonna meet 80, you know?
Yeah.
And without flinching, you and the team were like, oh, we're doing way more than 80. I was like, what? So I was just totally overwhelmed, but it gave me a moment to reflect that actually moments are, I think, similar to what you were just saying on stage a few moments ago. It's an opportunity for us to be intentional about how we're looking forward together, not only to celebrate and reflect on all of our achievements. And maybe I can bring to life one example that we celebrated earlier this year. We were speaking to Mattel about our wildfires update, and it was nearly 1 year later, and the recovery efforts that were going on with childcare providers across the LA area. And Mattel stepped up and said, we really want to make sure that those kids know that we're in it for the long haul, and we want to stand with them in part of that recovery effort. And so we showed up, Save the Children of Mattel, with a big red box of toys, and unveiled that opportunity for kids to go and pick a toy, and also for the childcare provider to receive toys to replenish their stock, not just for that one childcare provider, but for over 40 centers across the LA area. So thank you, Mattel, for that. And going back to the point about play being essential for childhood, you know, those toys provide those brain-building moments, right? Where it's about, you know, those fine motor skills, those gross motor skills, or creating those neuron connections in the brain that all happen actually before a child reaches kindergarten, before the age of 5. And so really play is such an essential part of their growth and their development. But the moment to stand up and say, we stand with you, we've been here, we want to celebrate what we've done so far, but we also want to be resilient and look forward to the future is, I think, what 80 Moments has meant to us. So we're just so appreciative.
Wish we could have an anniversary every year.
Every year.
Well, I think I'll build off of that because you all turned throughout 80 Moments for 80 years, you turned every day into a milestone moment. When I think about the last year, and Pina, you shared about the red box, in the morning, Mattel was with Save the Children, and that same afternoon, they were with Feed the Children, working in communities, you know, across the LA area. And I just think that you've done a good job of making sure that you're not just waiting for, you know, a big milestone. You don't have to wait, but it's about coming together, and you guys really created a catapult moment and had a lot of purpose behind it. And I think when you think about the purpose of Mattel and playing it forward, right, inside of this space, there are just so many areas of alignment and opportunity, and, you know, these moments matter.
They do, and that's the whole point. We got to use an anniversary year to really kind of amplify and move initiatives forward in the company, because when it's an anniversary and a celebration, people are paying attention, and so that's a perfect time to launch a major campaign within your organizations and your corporations as well. So last question, if you could give one piece of advice to the organizations that might be approaching a milestone year, or any piece of advice for that matter in the room today, what would it be?
You know, I think about, you know, families who are experiencing hunger and hardship. Every moment and every meal matters. And so I challenge all of you to really think about, you know, what is that anniversary? What is that product launch? What is that Thursday where you can really come together and think about your purpose, your passion, your alignment with other nonprofits in the room today, and really think about it's not about perfection, right? It's okay if we fail. It's okay if it means we're failing forward in that space. And so it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to have intention and be mission aligned, right?
Yeah.
And come together. So just encourage everyone to think about that and think about those moments, because those moments matter. And we don't want to have another moment with the child going to bed hungry.
100%.
I'd add to that, because I agree with everything that you said, curiosity. The curiosity to ask questions, listen, to learn, to understand, not to respond, but to really be open-ended and understanding what's happening in the world and how we can best lean in and utilize those superpowers that we talked about. And Nancy, something that you've always inspired us to do is invite others to the table. Really think about who else you can bring to the party, because the problems are just way too big for any one organization or one company to be able to solve on their own. So
yeah, the door is wide open at Mattel and Mattel Philanthropy. Anything that we can do to uplift your work, I think that's my responsibility, and I would partner with anyone in this room to amplify and make the work that you do so much better for kids. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. This has been great. That's the end of the first session in Fireside Chat. Big congratulations to these two ladies.
Oh, it's you and your team.